Today was the reveal for the Champions Hill game mode, and it was interesting because we had the developer explain a little bit about it, and then also we saw a trailer. And in this trailer, and what the developer said, actually explains a lot of how this Champions Hill game mode works, which we will be going over. But another thing that's very important is we saw some features inside this trailer that kind of is probably going to carry on to the multiplayer game mode as a whole, which we will also be going over throughout this video. But first things first, let's stick to that Champions Hill game mode and go over exactly how it works. And one thing you're probably heard by now, it's like something developers and people who have seen the mode already are saying, is that it's kind of gunfight meets battle royale, but honestly it's not really that at all. The best way to think about it from what we know about it now is that it's just gunfight tournaments with a little Counter-Strike sprinkled on, if we're being completely honest. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is. But where this actually takes place is actually through 4 different maps, and these maps are Airstrip, TRAINYARD, Market, and Courtyard. And we saw little sneak peeks at these maps throughout the trailer, and one thing you could tell by watching the trailer is that these maps are smaller, more 2v2 style maps, which is kind of what we expected. An interesting thing that was mentioned about these maps by the developer is that all of these maps will load into your game all at the same time. So you're not just loading in one, and then when you move on to the next map, you don't have to wait for another loading screen to move on to the next one. No, it's all just in one go, so you can easily jump from map to map, so it's much faster, which is really nice because there's a lot of downtime in normal gunfight tournaments, which I like about this. Which also gives you an opportunity to spectate people in other maps, which is very interesting, or at least they didn't say this directly, but it's something that was really implied on the trailer, where we saw some people looking down at the maps standing on this railing, so I'm pretty sure that's what that was. But as for how this game mode works, there's actually 8 teams, and these teams are rather made up of 2 or 3 players. And there is rumors of it being a 1-player thing too, but that just hasn't been mentioned thus far. But how this works is that 2 teams are going to be dropped into one of the maps. So there's going to be 2 teams dropped into Airstrip, 2 teams in TRAINYARD, 2 teams in Market, and 2 teams in Courtyard. And what you do there is pretty much have yourself a little gunfight style fight. And we do know there are going to be rounds, so it's probably going to play similar to that. We don't know how many rounds you're going to have, so that's something to keep in mind. But we do know at the very least that there is going to be rounds. Now, what seems like to be a difference from gunfight tournaments is because you don't get eliminated by losing a match against somebody. Instead, you lose by losing all your lives. And how that works, it seems, is that at the start of the game, everybody in the lobby is given a set amount of lives. And if you lose all those lives, you'll be gone. So this is interesting because this carries throughout all of your matches, because unlike in the original gunfight tournaments or the current gunfight tournaments, if you just died a bunch of times but you came out on top at the very end, it didn't really mean anything because you didn't have to worry about lives. But now those are going to carry on to the next round. So let's say someone, let's just for example say they 6-0'd somebody and died once or twice, whereas another team went 5-6 with somebody and they died like 5 or 6 times. So there's a lot less lives to work around with, which is an interesting change, and I guess we'll have to see how that all play out. Now, this is going to relate in how you win the tournament in the end, or what seems like a tournament, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. But another important feature about this game mode is that the guns aren't just random like in Gunfight currently. Instead, how you get the guns, well, we don't know how you initially get the guns, but at least after 3 matches of playing, you will actually have a buying round. And in this buying round, you will have collected money, rather through, they didn't explain it, but probably through round wins or kills or a mixture of the two. And here you are able to buy guns, attachments, and equipment. And after you buy these, you keep them throughout the rest of the tournament that you play, so you don't have to worry about them resetting after you spent your money on them. But of course, this leads us to how you finally win the tournament, which you may have already been able to figure out. And this, of course, is by just being the one with the lives left, because as I said, everybody has a set amount of lives at the start, and if you lose all those lives, you're eliminated. So just be one of the team or the last team to still have lives at the very end. And that's how it seems like this game mode is going to work. But this alpha is going to be taking place on PlayStation only, unfortunately for PC and Xbox players, but PlayStation only next weekend, or August 27th through the 29th. Now, that's kind of it about Champions Hill, but now I kind of want to move over to the features that we saw throughout the video, because there are some interesting things that we saw, which there may be opinions on, which we'll get to, of course. But first, I want to touch on the guns we did see and the ones I at least recognized. The first thing that we saw was an MG42, STG, and what seemed to be a Type 100. Another thing we saw was a sniper, and I don't know what this sniper is, but I've heard it could be a Mosin or it could be a car. I'm not exactly sure myself. Another gun we saw was the MP40, and we saw some weird looking, that maybe is a sway-off shotgun, but I again don't recognize it, so it could be something like that. Another gun we saw was the bar, and I think we saw a Thompson somewhere through here, but it also might have just also been a bar. The final thing of interest that we saw was when this guy was shooting this big ol' LMG from the hip that kind of looked like the MG08, but again, it could just be a score streak and kind of the death machine score streak, and that could be what we're seeing. And if that's the case, this could mean one of two things, or actually just two things, is that if it is a score streak, that means you could actually buy score streaks during Champions Hill, or it could just be a big LMG that you shoot from the hip. I don't know. Either way, as for some actual features that we saw, we actually saw the, I guess, rumored or I guess alluded to feature of being able to actually shoot through walls and be able to just like make new lines of sight with them. And we saw someone using a shotgun to break through the wood and then use the bar to then shoot from there, which is an interesting feature. I don't know if it's going to be too crazy, because honestly, if you start shooting through the wood in order to make a line of sight through it, it's probably going to be useless, because then the person that heard you shooting through the wall is going to be like, hey, they're up there, let me go shoot them now, you know. So I can't imagine this is going to be the craziest feature in the world, but it's at least going to be something. Another thing we saw is actually what looks like mounting or maybe even leaning coming back, because we do know that mounting is said to be coming back, but this and what we saw through this trailer look more like a lean to me. So I don't know if it's actually going to delete your recoil like it did in Modern Warfare, or if it's just going to be leaning more like Call of Duty Ghost or something like that, which honestly, not a fan of either of them, so not very happy about seeing that. But either way, speaking of not being happy, another thing that we saw throughout the trailer was Tac Sprint. Yeah, Tac Sprint is returning from Modern Warfare for who knows what reason. I really don't know why or who wants this, but yeah, it's here. Tac Sprint is back. Nobody asked for it. And the thing is here is that I don't think Tac Sprint as a whole is bad or even a bad idea. I just don't think it works well in Call of Duty, and I kind of get that it is necessary for Warzone, and considering that Warzone is going to come to this game inside Vanguard, and they do need Tac Sprint for that, and I get that for Warzone, but it's just normal multiplayer. It's just dumb in my opinion, and I just don't like it in normal multiplayer, so that is pretty unfortunate. All we have to do now is just, since we have two of, pretty negative features coming back, we just gotta hope that, red dots appear on the mini map in this game, and when someone shoots with the unsuppressed gun, and also that dead silence is a perk, which we have to cross our fingers for that one, because we still don't know about that one. Either way, the last two things I want to mention through this is actually that we did see attachments, as I mentioned earlier, on the guns, and the attachments don't look like they're being held back by the time period, because we do see a red dot sight, which isn't really realistic for the time, which I'm in total favor favor of, because I'd rather have unrealistic attachments than I guess being held back by the time period and having dumb attachments or no attachments, which is something I like a lot to see, because I was worried about that, because we all know how World War II was when we kind of had some stupid attachments. But either way, the last thing I want to mention here is that we do have takedowns returning, in case anybody was wondering. Yes, takedowns are returning. We saw 2 of them throughout the trailer, so we do know that there's also a variety of takedowns to be available, at least in this alpha. But regardless, that's about it for this video. I love to hear what you guys think of everything we've gone over in this video, whether it be Champion Seal or the features, the guns, or anything like that. I love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. But that's about it for me. If you guys did enjoy this video and you guys are hyped for this alpha, then definitely do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and all that great stuff. But I'm going to go, and I'll catch you guys next stream, video, or over the heck it may be, and laters, guys.